cleaning up EGR valves, swirl flaps, and so on. Lots of bitumen-like carbon, oil, soot, all jammed into a gummy paste. And I'm going to use the world's best degreaser, petrol, to clean up some of that dirt and crap off the parts. So I took them off the Land Cruiser, and I'm going to stick them in this box here, which is a polypropylene box, as indicated by PP5 logo on it, normally used by my lady wife to store wrapping paper for Christmas, but I'm going to use it to store petrol and parts. And this is culprit number 1 of the Land Cruiser's terrible rough running. It is these swirl flaps, absolutely coated in soot and carbon buildup. So I'm going to put them in this bucket here, and then I'm going to add to it the inlet manifold, which is similarly messy. Get a good look inside there. And then I'm going to fill this tank with, well, probably about 10 litres of Her Majesty's finest super unleaded, and degrease some of this stuff. And that will do the first round of loosening up the material without me having to agitate it a whole lot. In particular, these swirl flaps are disassembled with little Phillips head screws. I'd like to get at them so that I can unscrew them without stripping the heads off. And the good news is that the rest of the intake has already been cleaned. Looks like by previous owner, cleaned before he did the EGR block. But the larger part of the inlet manifold that I'm doing now, that's way harder. So I think he just did this post-EGR elbow. So there's 20 litres of Her Majesty's finest. That will probably be more than enough. But all I'm going to do at this point is pour it in, nothing fancy. Try not to pour too much on myself or my nice deck here. Pour it in through the hole in the inlet manifold if I can. Why not? I'll splash some on my swirl flaps also. What a mess. It's a good job my wife is away for a week. She would not approve. Now, I'm going to pause and make sure that my box isn't leaking. Looks good. Already, I can slosh this stuff back and forward. And it is starting to clean off some of the gunk. Now don't try this at home, kids. Only an idiot would pour 10 litres of petrol into a tank in his garden. Right, I will leave that to... I think I've just managed to cover the inlets there on the inlet manifold. Okay, that's submerged. That's a pretty good coverage. Now I'll just let that marinate for a couple of days, and that will clear off most of the soot and oil buildup. Easy. And I will at least have the kindness to cover it up and to lock the box. There we go.
2 hours later.
After a few hours soaking in the petrol, I mean, it started to clean off the outside, but the inside parts are still really just jammed with muck. Oh, pieces starting to come off, but man, those are huge chunks. So I was just going to clean this off and then put it back on the car. The problem I now see is that these chunks, I don't want these chunks coming off and heading into my heading in through the valves. So I think I'm going to need to blast this somehow. After about 10 minutes of scrubbing, I can see I've got the screws pretty clear. I'll be able to unscrew those swirl flaps now and disassemble them without destroying it. See, that one's come up pretty clean. The plan is to remove the screws and take away the flap, but just leave the rod in place, and that way the vacuum system just operates as normal. It thinks it's running the swirl flaps, but there's no flap attached. The problem is that part of it is coming off in chunks. I don't want those chunks to end up in my intake valves. Well, that's not a bad start. Yuck. Right, next I'm going to get in here with an alloy wheel cleaning brush. That should give me the ability to chooch. Alright ladies. Well, it's still a bit wet from cleaning it, but I hope you will agree that that is much, much better than it was before. It's mostly silver on the inside now. That will do very nicely indeed. So that didn't actually take too much effort because it was just soaking it in petrol overnight and then a bit of agitation with the scrubbing brush and pressure washing it. And it's not as good as new, but I think all of the carbon chunks are off that now, so I'm happy to put that back on the car. Right, that's all of these swirl flap pieces out, but we have two problems. Most of them have snapped. The little screws, teeny tiny screws, they're Loctited in and they snapped. That's on most of them. Here's one where the screw actually came out. Here's another one where the screw's still there, and in fact there's a couple of little sharp pieces on the other side. I don't want these to disintegrate and end up in my intakes. So I'm going to have to cut out the rods like I've done here. And then we just need to hope that we don't end up with any boost leak around this cammed swivel thing. So I'm just going to cut out the rest of the rods. Alright, there we are. So that's the rods removed. No more swirl flaps. These can go back in now. Let's take a look at this bucket of slimy mank now. So we have here, that's all the bitumen and tar and so on that has come out of the swirl flaps. Let me see if I can get a scooper. This has just been left to evaporate after the petrol was on, and all of this goop came from the inlet manifold and the swirl flaps. That is absolutely disgusting. All of that was swirling around and going in and out of my engine. That is absolutely disgusting. Well, I'm very glad that's no longer in there. Next step is for us to reassemble after our cleanup job, so we'll do that in another video. For now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found that interesting. I was very surprised to see just how much filth has come out of the engine by doing that cleaning job. And it wasn't particularly hard either, since I had all the stuff off anyway. Well, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do hit like, and if you're interested in following the rest of this Land Cruiser rebuild, or whatever we're calling it, please do subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, make good decisions if you can, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.